Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Boggs fan, back with another video. Hope you're all doing well. Today is a video response for Mike, Baseball Collector. He is celebrating 5,000 subscribers to his channel. Mike, congratulations, well deserved. You're a great member of this YouTube sports card community. And what Mike wants us to do in this video is two things. The first one, he wants us to describe what the YouTube community means to us and how it's changed our enjoyment of the hobby. So the first thing is that I've been collecting for over 40 years now. And when I first started collecting, a few friends of mine were also, into collecting cards and stuff, but for the most part, they moved on to other things, and I kept collecting. And so for the longest time, I was like isolated. It was just me and my cards. Didn't really have anyone to share my collection with, show it off. I still enjoyed collecting cards, but I was sort of in my own little bubble. And then maybe it was, I'm trying to think now, it may be around 8 or 10 years ago that a fellow Boggs collector, Rich Davis, reached out to me and said, hey, I'm a big Boggs collector. And since then, we have become extremely close friends. And I have interacted with other Wade Boggs collectors. But it wasn't until I got onto YouTube and created my channel a little over 2 years ago that the world just opened up to me in terms of all these other people who collect sports cards, showing off their collections, and I've had a chance to interact with them, become friends with a lot of them, and it has just, I don't know, it's given me an avenue to finally to show off my cards and to watch other people show off their cards and to make comments on their videos and then make comments on my videos. It's just been is an amazing experience, a great experience over the last 2 years of just opening my world up to other collectors. The other thing that has changed my enjoyment of the hobby, or increased my enjoyment of the hobby, I should say, is those YouTubers who have spread their knowledge, their passion, their experiences, their love of the hobby with all of us. And I try to do that in my videos, and I know a lot of you do that as well. It's not just about showing off cards, and that's great. I mean, I love videos where they say, hey, look at these cards in my collection, or look at the new cards that I've picked up last week or whatever. It's beyond just that. And each YouTuber out there has their own way of doing it, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, but spreading their knowledge of the hobby, whether it be a particular set, a player, just what to look for in a card, best way to buy cards, or what to look for. One example is, Eric Those Back Pages says, hey, don't necessarily go for tens. Nines are great. You still get a great card, but you're not paying the cost for a 10. Just general hobby knowledge experiences. It's just been great for me. I've learned so much over these last 2 years about sports cards, collections, you name it. And it has thoroughly increased my enjoyment of the hobby from when I was on my own, just collecting, stuff, and then, Wade Boggs cards. So yeah, that's been another great experience for me, and an increase in my enjoyment of the hobby. The next one are random acts of kindness and contests. I just love when channels, for whatever variety of reasons, hey, you reach a certain subscriber level, you name it. Sometimes they just do it out of the blue. But it's always great to participate. It doesn't matter whether I win or not. That's not the point. The point is to, one, help promote that channel, because it's all about promoting each other. We all want to see all our channels grow and interact with everyone. But it's those random acts of kindness, those care packages that someone just reaches out to you. My last video, Mark Rudog21, just again out of the blue reached out to me and say, "Hey John, I have some cards in my collection that I think you would enjoy." And he sent me some Wade Boggs cards and my first ever Roberto Clemente playing day baseball card. I mean, it was just amazing act of kindness on his part, that he just wanted to see some of his cards and knew that I would enjoy them. And it's just amazing. And these contests, again, it's not about what the channel is giving away or whatever. I mean, it's nice, but it's the type of contests that these people have. It's always a fun new way to show off your collection or talk about the hobby or whatever the contest may entail. I just enjoy doing those types of videos, and again, helping support other YouTubers out there. And the last one, of course, I think is the most important, is, and I sort of talked about it, about the first point of feeling isolated and then having a chance to interact with others, are the new friendships. I don't have a whole lot of like close friends. I have a few, but since being on YouTube, and sometimes it's just through interactions on comments, but for others, it's been texting over the phone. Others is talking on the phone, meeting up in person. I did a surprise visit. I knew where Scotty or on your boys worked. He happened to work really close to where my sister lived. One day when I went down to visit my sister, I popped in and surprised Scotty. I had never met him before. Eric, 4-leaf cards. We happened to bump into each other. We didn't know it before I got on YouTube at my local card shop, even though he's from up in Massachusetts. But, you know, we got together. He was down in the area for work. We met up. He came over to the house. I showed him my collection. We interacted, just I forget how long he was here, and we just had a great time. And of course, the National. My first National was in 2015. And other than it was out in Chicago, other than my good friend Rich, who lives in the Chicago area, other than him, and I think at the time maybe one or two other Boggs collectors, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know a single person at the National. Now, I still had a good time, but I was by myself, walking around tables and, that stuff, but I really didn't know anyone. Fast forward to 2019. Pretty much the same. I got to hang out with my friend Rich and two or three other Wade Boggs collectors, but again, I was pretty much on my own. Did I have a good time? Yes. I mean, the National is amazing. It wasn't until last year's National that, because I had been on YouTube for a year and got to know and become, somewhat friends with some of the YouTubers out there, that National last year was just so amazing, because I get to meet in person so many YouTubers, bump into them during the day at a show. I'd be looking at a card and someone would come up to me and say, "Hey, are you John Wade Boggs fan?" And we'd have a conversation about just cards in general, the hobby, and our personal lives and stuff. The Thursday night interaction with all the YouTubers, that was awesome. Got to meet so many of you in person. I didn't get a chance, obviously, to talk to a lot of you in depth, but it was just great to see everyone in person and interact, and it was just amazing. Another case in point, Don's Field of Dreams. He lives out in the Pittsburgh area, and I'm in central Pennsylvania. And I think he did a video at one point of going to the Pittsburgh card show. Now, I don't have a chance to go to many card shows. I really haven't gone to the Philly show at all. It's just been really the national. Well, I had reached out to Don and said, hey, Don, let me know when the next Pittsburgh card show is, and maybe there's a chance that I can go. Well, a week or so ago, he reached out to me and said, hey, there's the next Pittsburgh card show toward the end of May, and I think I'm going to be able to work it out to go out there, probably spend Saturday, maybe the first part of Sunday, I'm not sure, out there at that card show, hang out with Don, maybe have a chance to see his awesome vintage collection. None of that would have happened if I hadn't been on YouTube and creating content. Maybe if I had interacted with them, but I think making content just adds to that connection with other collectors that are doing YouTube videos. So many things that have increased my enjoyment of the hobby being on YouTube, but I think the main one is the friendships and interacting with so many great people, great collectors out there, and it's all because of being on YouTube and creating content. So if there are some of you out there that have been just following channels, commenting on videos, and you haven't taken that leap to actually turn the camera on, and really all you need is a phone and some place to set it up and hit record, I encourage you to start making content. You may be scared at first. I was scared at first. I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? And some of my early first videos, I probably, if I go back and look at them, I'll cringe. But everyone has to start at some point. So again, if you haven't taken that leap, I encourage you to do so. I think you'll find that it will increase your enjoyment of the hobby even more. So the second thing that Mike wants us to talk about in this video are channels or people that have had the biggest influence on me, my collection, and my channel. Now, to be honest, if I am subscribed to your channel, if I watch your videos, if I comment on your videos, in some way you have influenced me, increased my enjoyment of the hobby, because I enjoy your content. I enjoy your collection, what you show off, your knowledge that you have. And you may not think, and I think the same way. I sometimes I do videos that are beyond just showing off cards, and I say my thoughts, and sometimes I just rant or whatever. I don't necessarily think that I may have any particular knowledge that I'm throwing out there, but others may have a different opinion. But I always think that when I watch one of your videos, it is because I have been influenced by you in one way or another. So I could talk about every single channel that I follow, but I've picked 4 main channels, people that have influenced me the most. So if for those who I don't mention again, don't feel slighted. There's so many of you out there that have influenced me in one way or another. But these 4 are sort of like the first ones that came to mind and have particular areas that have influenced me. First one is Eric Those Back Pages. Now, again, when I first got on YouTube, I thought it was just a way to show off my collection. Hey, look at this card, this Wade Boggs card. Again, it was mainly Wade Boggs cards. Hey, look at these Wade Boggs cards in my collection, or look at these new Wade Boggs cards that I picked up. Well, in watching Eric's channel, and Eric was one of the early channels that I started watching a little bit before I started my channel, and definitely once I started my channel. And while Eric does show off cards in his collection, the videos that I've watched of his content is heavy on knowledge, spreading knowledge, insights into the hobby, the cards themselves, just ways to collect, how to collect, ways to go about collecting, and thought process, and just everything. And it it taught me that my channel doesn't just have to be about showing off cards. There's so much more I can contribute to the card community. Some of the stuff obviously is not original. You know, some of the things I talk about are my thoughts on other people's videos that they may have made comments on or whatever. But I think it just expands the knowledge out there for people watching YouTube videos about sports cards. And so, yeah, Eric has influenced me in a way to say there's more to this hobby than just the cards themselves. The second one is Nate, Tops85401. Now, his was the first channel that I saw that was also of another player collector. So, you know, again, I'm big into Wade Boggs, and he is huge into Barry Bonds. He has an amazing Barry Bonds collection. And that was also a positive influence to me of knowing that there are other collectors out there doing YouTube videos that aren't just showing their collection of their niche and what they're interested in, that there are a group of other player collectors out there. And it was always great watching Nate's videos of new Bonds cards that he's picked up. And he was, I don't know if he still does it, he may still, but he had his binder, and he'd cross off the new number and put how many now different Barry Bonds cards that he has. And it was great to see that collection of his grow over time, and he's still growing it now. So Nate, and also, and I think he was the one who reached out to me first. I don't think it was me to him, but I think Nate was probably the first person that I truly interacted with on YouTube beyond commenting on each other's videos. I think it started off with some text messages, and then it was just, you know, some random phone calls. And I think yeah, we did there was a live stream and things like that. And so he was the first one that sort of introduced me, or made a connection, a physical connection, um, to other people within YouTube. So that was very special as well. The next one is John Mangini. Now, I've mentioned John's positive influence on me, my collection, my channel before, but his, again, was one of the first channels that I watched before I started making content. And John, in terms of his videos, it was just plain and simple. He says, hey, check out this card, and he'd show off the card. He'd talk about the card, talked about how rare the card is, talked about the player, the significance of the player, usually some unknown fact about the player, or how he acquired this card, or whatever. And of course, all the amazing different cards that he has in his collection that I never knew existed. Just amazing collection, and hasn't necessarily inspired me to go out and get some of those cards, although I think they're really cool. Some of them just don't fit into my, you know, focus right now of hobby collecting, but they are amazing cards. And his positive attitude in terms of collecting and stuff is just inspiring. And so, yeah, definitely John Mangini has had a very positive influence on my collection, my enjoyment of the hobby, and my channel. And the last one, I think in everyone's life, and it may be more than one, but there's typically someone that, and maybe when you're younger, maybe you're older, whenever, that there was a person that you looked up to, that you said, hey, someday I want to be like that person. And for a variety of ways, but you just, they inspired you, they influenced you in a very positive way. And again, you may have had this experience, and there may be multiple people. It could be your father, older brother, a coworker, a friend, that you just, again, want to emulate and say, man, one day I would really love to be like that person. And to me, that's Mike Baseball Collector. He was the main inspiration in me creating my channel and deciding to do this whole thing 2 years ago. I was watching his videos. I don't know how I came about it. Maybe just, again, searching YouTube of baseball cards, sports cards, whatever. And for whatever reason, I think his videos, showed up in my search, and I started watching his videos. And I remember saying to myself, wow, those are, one, some great cards that he's showing off and all that stuff. But I think I could do that. I think that would be fun to do my own channel. And it was specifically because of Mike that now 2 years later I've been on YouTube. But it's more than just that. Ever since I started collecting, I've always enjoyed and wanted to have vintage cards in my collection. And when I first started collecting, I just had enough money to maybe buy some packs of cards. And with allowance here and there, I really didn't have a whole lot of money to spend on baseball cards. So it was primarily the new cards, the cards of players that I was watching on TV, my favorite players and stuff. But I still remember getting the price guides. And I wouldn't necessarily, yeah, I would look at what maybe the current values of some of the new cards and new rookies and things like that were going for. But I always turn back the pages to the first ones in the checklist of the cards from the 50s and 60s and go through and see what 1957 Mickey Mantle was going for, or you name it, okay? What Mickey Mantle cards, Sandy Koufax, Stan Musial, all those great players that were no longer playing. They had, their careers were over, so I didn't watch them play at all. But I was always fascinated about the card designs, the players, and wanting to have some of those vintage cards in my collection. But at the time, even a card that was maybe $20, $30, $60, back then, that was way out of my range of buying a card. Maybe I would be lucky if I maybe asked for one for Christmas, that I would get, a card, but I didn't. So it was always out of my reach, but I had always wanted vintage in my collection. So fast forward, I started collecting this and that in sets, and I've told the story of how I got into Wade Boggs, and that just took off. For years, I was just mainly focused on collecting Wade Boggs, Wade Boggs, Wade Boggs. It wasn't until, again, I got on YouTube, started watching videos, starting doing videos, and I kept going back to Mike's videos and him showing off his vintage collection. Now, again, I watched other channels that had vintage cards, but again, it was going back to Mike's videos and his passion for vintage baseball cards that got me into saying, you know what, I want to go beyond just collecting Wade Boggs. I'm still collecting Wade Boggs cards, but whenever I show off a vintage card in my collection, it is in some part due to Mike and him reintroducing me to my passion and interest for vintage cards. So Mike, thank you again for, one, inspiring me to do my channel, and two, getting me into vintage cards again. Again, every time I pick up a vintage card and look at it, it takes me back to, again, when I first started collecting and always wanted some of these cards in my collection. The other thing is, which goes into part of the vintage collection, are the trying to do some player runs. Mike's been showing off these player showcases, and again, there are others out there. Don't get me wrong. There are others out there that have done player runs and are showing their player runs, and it's great. It's amazing. But Mike was again one of those ones that first started showing off his player run. It may not have been complete, but when he would get a card, maybe, hey, this completes my complete run of X player. And that has inspired me to try to complete my first player run of Corey Yastrzemski. And so I'm really, really close, maybe 8 cards away, something like that, from having a player run, at least for tops, of Corey Yastrzemski. So that's going to be really exciting when I'm able to complete that first player run. And I may not have done that again if I hadn't seen Mike, do that. And finally, Mike's hobby knowledge. Now, again, there's so many of you out there that have knowledge of the hobby that you share in your videos. But with what Mike's done with his videos, and it's not just his videos, it's all the stuff that he does on Bench Clear, all his podcast videos, and now all the stuff about the hobby in general. And again, it's gone beyond just showing off baseball cards, but the hobby in general, the knowledge of the hobby, the cards, the history, all that stuff. And so I would have to say again, the person and channel that has most influenced me in my collection to where it is today is Mike. So Mike, thank you for all you've done for me. The friendship that we've made. I know the winner of this video response would get an opportunity to go down to Dallas to meet with Mike and to go to the Dallas card show. Well, Mike, I want to let you know that even if I do not win, and I probably won't, but even if I do not win your contest, I hope to someday be able to go down to Dallas, meet with you, would love to check out your collection, see Norman, see Julie, and go to the Dallas card show with you. And so, yeah, with that, again, Mike, congratulations on 5,000 subscribers. I hope I didn't ramble on too much in terms of what this YouTube card community means to me, and those of you, specifically the ones I mentioned, but everyone, every channel that I follow and videos that I watch. Again, I just want to let everyone know that keep up the great content. I love watching the cards you show off. I love your knowledge of the hobby that you share with everyone. And again, this has been a great journey for me over the last 2 years. So Mike, thanks for doing this video response. I think it's a great idea. That's all I have for you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.